You ready for this?
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostmourne, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 28th episode of the Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Heroes of the Storm. So I'm your host, Linus Dagtilius, and I'm joined as always by Mystic. Hey, how's it going, Mystic?
It's going pretty good.
And Liqiud. How's it going, Liqiud?
It's going wonderful.
And if you're watching the VOD, right, or not the VOD, if you're watching it live, or I guess if you're watching the VOD, you'll notice it's a little squishy in here again today because we've got a special guest, a very special guest. Liqiud, why don't you introduce our special guest since you know him very well?
All right, so our special guest this week is Bahgz, and the co-host of the Weekly Blizz. I was actually on that show 2 weeks ago. I feel like it was 2 weeks ago. And I had a great time talking with him. Like, him and I started talking HCC, and, like, man, we just kept going. It was sweet. Like, 2/3 of the show was HCC that week. It was helpful that the other Blizzard esports didn't have a lot going on, but I had a great time talking with him. He's here to join us today. What's up, man? How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's an honor to be here. I'm excited. It was a lot of fun to have you on the show, Liqiud. It was great. It's nice to have someone to talk shop with.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was nice having someone to back you up too, because I mean, listening to the show, it sounds like Bahgz isn't like necessarily the biggest into Heroes esports too. So I could tell you guys liked having Liqiud there to roll with you at least. So
it was nice to have someone else in my corner. Bahgz is he's the Overwatch guy by far, and so we go at it sometimes, but you know, it's all right. It adds a little spice to the show.
Well, exactly, and we've got the struggle on our show too because Liqiud likes to try and take it over with esports, and I always gotta rein the guy in. I'm a little concerned today because we got two esports guys here, and we've got so much stuff that dropped too because we had a PTR balance patch, and then part of that balance patch actually went live on the main servers today as well. So we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. We've also got D.Va's kit also was released too with their spotlight video and everything too. So I'm sitting here looking at the esports content. I see Liqiud's like page and a half in the show notes being like, Oh no! I'm gonna have to like.
It kept growing too,
pump
right?
the brakes.
Like yesterday was like half a page. I wake up this morning and all this news dropped, and I just started adding stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this is a page and a half, and like stuff's still coming in. And Bahgz is here tonight, and I'm like, what? Like, Dad's your host.
You know what's even crazy? Like I added stuff in there too. You were surprised. You're like, who added this stuff into the esports section on our show notes? And it was me. I slid it in there because I found some interesting news which piqued my interest as well. But we'll get into that a bit later. For those of you who are tuning in as well, we may get to a HOTS debate near the end of the show. However, I have a funny feeling with Bahgz here and with all the esports and the patch notes and everything, we'll probably have to wait until next week to have that. But I'm sure Mystic and Liqiud are just dying to get into that debate, which is actually going to be pretty relevant too, because if you remember from a few weeks ago when we came up with the debate topic, we're going to be debating if it's better to have mechanical skill in the game or game knowledge. And with the people doing, what's the name of that here? Why am I blanking?
Try
hard for good. You've got literally like, you know, Dyrus, Skara, and Voyboy coming into the game with absolutely no game knowledge, but crazy mechanical skill. So like we've actually seen how they've been performing, and I'm sure Mystic and Liqiud will use that, who knows, for defense or offense in the debate as well next week. So again, if you're tuning in waiting for that, you may have to wait a week. But before we do start the show and jump in, because I do want to talk to Bahgz a bit about like the Weekly Blizz in particular, I do want to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/Nexus Trolls. This show is always going to be free, guys, but you know, if you're looking for a way to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Nexus Trolls, and you can always hit us up there. So the Weekly Blizz. I didn't even know about the Weekly Blizz until a couple weeks ago. Bahgz hit us up on Twitter and was like, I'd like to get Liqiud on the show. It didn't take very long for that to happen. But you've now got me as a regular listener, too. I'm not big into Overwatch, but I'm definitely big into Heroes. And you guys talk about, HGC on that show as well and cover that. So Bahgz, what's the Weekly Blizz all about?
All right. The Weekly Blizz is an esports podcast, obviously, as we've kind of alluded to already. We talk about Blizzard Entertainment esports. We do a little bit of everything. We'll do WoW Arena, Hearthstone, Overwatch, and Heroes are obviously the big two. We don't actually cover StarCraft, which is probably a surprise to a lot of people because it's
Mystics
where it all
inside.
started, right?
Yeah.
Mystics
sad.
just broke.
He's triggered. I just broke him. I apologize. But, well, what it is Guaz and I, the only StarCraft experience we really have is like the campaign in Wings of Liberty. So we just felt like, I mean, unless we watched a ton of it, we wouldn't be able to really comment on it, I guess. And then SC2 is like kind of on the back burner now, along with Diablo. So we just talk about the stuff I feel like people are going to want to listen to, I guess. But the big two are Heroes and Overwatch. I'm the Heroes guy. He's the Overwatch guy. I will say that when we do split up the sections, kind of we give each other the rein there to talk about each section. So when Guaz gets going on Overwatch, I kind of just sit on the back burner and let him go, and I'll poke in with a question here and there, and then vice versa when we get going to Heroes. And I guess that's basically the gist of it. Originally, about a year ago, it started as like a new show. I was inspired by like Convert to Raid in the Instance, and I got a new job and I had to kind of like leave the show, and it went on hiatus for a while. And then when they announced Overwatch League in this previous BlizzCon, we were re-inspired to rebuild the show and bring it back as an esports show, and here we are. We're 15 episodes in.
Yeah, I have to. So I'll be honest. Like, first, I had a blast talking HGC with you. That was a ton of fun. But it was also interesting. Like, I did a whole bunch of reading and I watched some Overwatch videos, and just so I could like catch up and at least be intelligent about what was going on. There's a lot going on in the Overwatch world, and I can't remember if it was you or Guaz that tweeted out today the article where I think ESPN is worried about what Blizzard's doing with the Overwatch League, which is interesting because I read that article. I'm like, yeah, I could see this being a concern. And with only two teams right now that have bought into the league, or maybe it was 4, yeah, it's a real concern. Blizzard had grand plans for it, but it doesn't seem to be shaping up that way.
So that was me. I retweeted that earlier, and which is a shame because it was, I think, 2 days ago I noticed that that they had announced that the owner of the Miami Dolphins and the owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, had bought in. And now it seems like esports orgs are being pushed away because the asking price is too high. And I don't know how many other like traditional sports teams that have a lot bigger capital investing behind them to kind of dive in. So it's concerning that the bidding price is too high. The starting price on bidding for these franchises is too high. I don't know. Well, I guess we got to see how it plays out still, but it's alarming.
Well, the interesting thing, and this will be the last thing, because Daz knows I'll get talking on this stuff and just keep going, because esports to me is really important. That's where HGC is based in it, right? But if you look at like the 76ers and the Heat, the 76ers bought Dignitas, the Heat invested in Misfits. They're not going to invest in a competing team just for Overwatch. They want Dignitas and they want Misfits to be an Overwatch league. So they're going to struggle to say, well, why should I put the money in and buy in to this franchise when I already paid my money to get in with Dignitas or get in with Misfits, right? So, like, that's part of the struggle I think that Blizzard's going to run into. But we're here for the Nexus. We're not here for Overwatch.
It's funny. I was going to give you a follow-up question, too, because you sparked my interest, because you think that with how popular Overwatch is, and they release numbers constantly showing how big the game has been getting, you think they wouldn't have any problem at all in attracting interest from, like, multiple investors and such, too. But I'm almost surprised to hear about this. I don't follow the Overwatch scene at all, but this does surprise me. You think this is maybe the kind of issue you'd have, trying to attract interest into a smaller franchise like Heroes Esports and such too, right? But
I think it's really the way they structured it and what the minimum buy-in is, and like they're treating it like a true sports league, which is good, but they're treating it like the NFL when they should be saying, you know, maybe we're women's soccer, right? So, and that's nothing against women's soccer. I love soccer, but
I am about to get like a flurry of emails. You realize what you just did, Liqiud?
No.
The formal apology will come later.
All right, so
Liqiud does not represent the Nexus Trolls.
That was not
views.
feminist. So let's use a Premier League team versus the third ranked team in the UK. Okay, the barrier of entry to get into the third ranked team, which I'm totally going blank on what that league is called, is much lower than to get into a Premier League team, right? It's that kind of thing, and they're at Premier League pricing. They should be at that first league pricing. I apologize, ladies. I have no problem, equal pay, all that. Like,
this is probably we should just stop talking, Liqiud. And we'll just carry on.
Someone take that shovel away from him. The whole
So Bahgz, where can you find like the weekly Blizz, and like when do you guys cast, or what's the situation there?
All right, so we don't stream live right now. We used to stream the show live, but we currently our current setup doesn't allow us to stream the show, so we record offline, and then we post it up it goes onto our SoundCloud, and that from there that's our RSS feed, and it just trickles out to the web, and it's everywhere. It's every podcast hosting app you can possibly imagine we're on, as far as I could Google search and sign us up for. So that's soundcloud.com/theweeklyblizz. You can follow the show on Twitter at twitter.com/theweeklyblizz, and I guess that's where we're at. Oh, we also have a YouTube. Almost forgot. We do record the show. There is a video version on YouTube. We don't have a cool link for that yet, because you need 100 subscribers.
Same with us. I never give that out.
26. So we'll have to I'll have to copy paste that at some point for you. It's just, I guess the easiest way to find it is youtube.com, and then just search the Weekly Blizz, and that's a good way to find it.
And if you search the Weekly Blizz and you get a crazy like neon logo which looks amazing, that's the right place.
That's it.
Yes, Gwaz made that. He's a graphic designer by trade, so
Ooh.
I love that logo.
We might have to hit Gwaz up for some work then, because me and Liqiud in particular are always like, we could use a graphic designer for like some of our stuff. You look at our logo, like I literally looks like a 3-year-old drew it. It's because that was me who tried to put that together.
It looks better than that. Don't be too down on yourself.
Okay, 6-year-old. We'll go with that. Okay, well, hey guys, why don't we work ourselves into the news here?
Someday, this will make a great story.
So right off the top, we've got an important announcement to make. We teased this last week, but we've actually got a tournament that we're participating in called Creators of the Storm.
Participating in? Man, we made this tournament. Let's be right up about this.
I didn't want to take credit. It's a community tournament. You know, it's for all the podcasters and content creators out there. So basically what it is, you head over to creatorsofthestorm.com. It's called Creators of the Storm. And what it's going to be is it's on June the 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on Twitch. It's going to be hosted by Haloran too. So we've got a pretty primetime caster hosting the event. But one of the things that makes this unique is not only do we have a whole bunch of podcasts and writers on board, and I'll go over that list now. It's the Nexus Trolls, the Weekly Blizz, Blizz Pro, Lords of the Storm, Heroes Power Hour, Gankbush Squad, Realm Maintenance. We're all going to be participating. There's probably going to be more names we're going to be adding to there soon. We're in discussions with some other podcasts to take part. But we're going to be making mashup teams of different shows. We're going to be having a lighthearted tournament. The tournament's going to have crazy rules for every game. Every game is going to have a light rule set. Like maybe it's going to be like you have to draft, well, one team's got to draft Horde, one team's got to draft the Alliance, or maybe it's like an all supports game, or maybe one team drafts for the other team in a reverse draft type situation. So it's going to be a really cool, fun event. And because we've got all these personalities on the event, we want to make sure we're casting both sides of the game as well. So Haloran's going to be casting the games, but we're also going to have the individual teams casting their sides on comms too, so it's a bit of a choose your own adventure. You can pick which side you want to do. You can even listen to both sides simultaneously if you want to get the back and forth banner, which I'm calling the Twitch stereo experience, which I hope some people actually try and go for. But anyhow, it's a really fun event. I'm really looking forward to it. It's still a month and a half out, so a lot of the details are still being formed by us. Looks like it's probably going to be 4 teams, just a single elimination tournament with best of 3s. But I mean, if we get more and more shows, we're going to have to change the format. But I'm super excited about it, and I got Bahgz to jump on board and commit to it yesterday too, which we're glad that he jumped on board for the show so we could announce it and say, hey, you know, Bahgz is involved as well as Guaz, his co-host of the Weekly Blizz too. So Mystic, you excited to get involved in the tournament because we've got quite a few people on board already.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun. There'll be, you know, those little rule sets. I'm excited to see what all those are gonna be.
One with Tyrande's rework, like all support's gonna be crazy.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, there's so much more damage coming out of the supports these days, more utility and such too.
yeah.
I'm just excited to be cast by Haloran too. I feel like I'm gonna be like a pro here.
It's I'm really excited to be a part of it. I was glad that you guys invited us, and I'm hoping Guaz can carry my dead weight.
Yeah, it is a lighthearted tournament. The thing is too, a lot of people are probably like, oh, you know, all these podcasters probably really great players. Not so much. We've a variety of skill across all shows. We've got some that are master level, some are even bronze levels that are going to be like involved in this. So we're going to try and do our best Blizzard matchmaking experience, putting like the teams together. But I have a funny feeling we're gonna figure out why Blizzard is such a problem with matchmaking when we're trying to put it together ourselves. But regardless, it's going to be fun. There's a lot of great personalities there, and that's really the point of it all, is to give us a little bit more exposure to all the different shows and all the community. Like maybe you'll come on, maybe you're a fan of our show, but you'll be exposed to Lords of the Storm or the Weekly Blizz, shows you haven't heard of before that you can kind of get into through this, a bit of a gateway drug to the other content creators in the community.
Gateway drug.
Yeah, gateway
no
drug.
way do we condone drug use in anybody.
Don't try and
might
put
be
that on
illegal.
me because of your previous comment. That one's perfectly kosher.
We're on a roll tonight.
Everybody use responsibly.
So on that note, moving along, take the shovel out of my hands. We'll move it on to week 3 of the Nexus Challenge is this week. So if you've been playing the past few weeks since Heroes 2.0 came out, you know that the Nexus Challenge has been going on. You play with a friend, play QM, unranked, or ranked games. You just have to play 5 of them. With a friend, you'll receive a whole bunch of stuff. From HOTS, you'll receive the Overwatch Nexagon mount, the Officer D.Va banner, the badge spray, Officer D.Va portrait. And in Overwatch, you'll receive the Officer D.Va spray and the Officer D.Va player icon. Hopefully, I haven't seen as much on Reddit this week about it as we did last week about everyone throwing games. I'm not sure if that's just kind of settled down now. Have you guys heard anything more about that? Because a lot of Overwatch players coming in would just be like basically throwing games to make this go faster.
I think what's going to happen is I don't think they wanted the skin, so they were all in last week trying to get the skin. I don't think they care as much about the spray or about the icon. But what's going to happen is they're going to want their 10 free boxes, so they're going to be back next week. What they're not going to realize is when they come back next week, they have to do week 3 before they can do week 4, which means they're going to throw 10 games instead of the 5 games. But yeah, it's not as bad this week.
Maybe by the end of it, they'll be like, wait a minute, maybe this game's actually a little fun, right? And get hooked into it?
There are a ton of Reddit threads out there by League of Legends players coming over because of the Try Hard for Good, and by Overwatch players coming over because of the Nexus Challenge 2.0.
Don't forget the Checkers players.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
mean,
Checkers
as well.
players.
That was like the top post on Reddit today. Former Checkers player coming over to HOTS. Yeah, that was pretty awesome to see. Also, actually, last week, one of our listeners was asking about the loot box rewards, and because there was some recent legislation over in China which required any video games that had some sort of like loot box style mechanic to release their drop rates. And we said at the time, we weren't planning on covering it because we didn't have the numbers yet. And turns out we've got the numbers now. Those have come to light over the past week. So if you're wondering about the odds of getting rare, epic, and legendary items in loot boxes, here they are. So a legendary item should occur once in every 17.5 boxes on average. So that's 5.7% chance of pulling a legendary in any given box. Epic items should occur in every 4.5 boxes. So that's 22.2%. And rare items should occur on average once every box. Obviously, you get some variability there, so you're not necessarily going to get one in every box, but on average, you should get one per box. So I think it's pretty much what I was expecting. This is very similar to Hearthstone rates, from what I understand, too, because I know Hearthstone is about 1 per 20 for Legendary. It's interesting to actually see the numbers here, too. But I think this is pretty much close to what everyone was expecting.
I was reading an article yesterday. I wish I could remember which article it was. I didn't bookmark it. I should have bookmarked it so I could add it here to the show notes. But they've released it for Hearthstone, Heroes, and Overwatch. And all of them are very, very similar with some minor tweaks between them. So, there's good information. It's nice to see it out there.
The number on the legendary items was actually higher than I expected. In my brain, I just thought of it as like 1%, you know, like the rare amounts that would drop in WoW or something. So I'll take the extra 4%.
Right? I agree.
And if you're like Liqiud and you re-roll every box, you're going to be getting more per box too, because you're increasing the odds. Because you're pulling 3 for every one instead of just the one. So.
Funny story about that. I got a regular box tonight, and I re-rolled it 3 times and ended up with a legendary on the 3rd re-roll. Of course. So it was a duplicate, so I got the 400 shards, but, you know, I did re-roll 3 times. Shards. I mean, I've been crafting the skins I want or the sprays. I had to craft the ETC spray for my ETC play, you know, things like that. So I had to get the blue Diablo skin because I like the red freaky Diablo skin, but then this weekend... I don't remember who. Someone played Blue Diablo. I'm like, oh my god, that's sick. And my wife looked at me and goes, you need that one. So I had to craft that today too. So. Oh no, it was EU Open Division last night. It was not Team Zealot, but Gang. Yeah, it was Team Zealot playing. It was sick. Oh my god. All right, sorry. It all blends together, man.
Try Hard for Good is still going on too, and we've got lots to say about this, and it's, I think, been surprisingly popular and like a pretty much of a runaway success as well. For any of those that you don't know, a whole bunch of I say a whole bunch, but 3 League of Legends players, Dyrus, Skara, and Voyboy, were getting coached a couple weeks ago by Dunk Train, Chew8, and KO. And basically what happens is they got coached for a week, and then they were set off to the wolves for 2 or 3 weeks, and they've got to try and rank up as high as possible in ranked play. The higher they get, the more money the Blizzard will donate to charity. The more wins they get, the more Blizzard will donate to charity. And there's also some prizes for the winner, whoever gets up the highest first, and like what levels they get to. So they're actually performing pretty damn well too.
Well,
wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, Liqiud. Why don't you take it away, bud? Well, worse than you expect. Are you prepping? Are you prepping this for next week's debate then already?
No. So Dyrus and Voyboy are actually putting in time and doing well. And I've actually been watching a lot of Dyrus's stream after I found out he hit Master first. So Dyrus and Voyboy have both hit Master. Dyrus tweeted 2 days ago, no league today, just trying to get GM in HOTS, which was freaking amazing as far as I'm concerned. Here's a guy who makes his living playing League and streaming it, is like, yeah, I'm going after Grandmaster. Like, that's my goal. That's what I'm going to do. And he's working at it. Also in our show notes, I have the clip of when Dyrus hit Master, so you guys can go watch that. It's a pretty cool moment when he hit Master. But Scar is just not putting in the work, man. Like, there's a couple times where, like, if you look at his Twitter feed and you look at his Twitch, he's like, yeah, I know, I'm not playing enough heroes, and I'm not putting in the work to get higher. I know Voyboy and Dyrus are higher than me. So, like, he knows it. The funny thing is, based on the bios and just watching the training, I thought Skara was going to make the run for Master faster than the other two. But no, he got out of training, and he's like, he plays it a little bit, and he goes back to League. So that surprised me. I
want to chime in here. Just because, you know, I played League of Legends a lot, and I've been watching Skara for like a long time. He's not like as mechanically skilled as some of the other players are, but where his like most of his skill from League comes from is his knowledge of the game. Okay. And so if you transfer it to here, it kind of makes sense that he is not as high as Voyboy or Dyrus because they are very mechanically skilled. Where he should have shined is like if he did more research into the game or if you put more time into the game, right? Because if you're like a knowledge-intensive player, right, but you don't put in the time to get that knowledge, then you're not going to be able to climb as high.
I mean, Daz, I almost feel like we don't have to have the debate at this point. like these guys are answering it for us.
Well, that's why it's going to be so interesting to see like what you guys pull from what they've been doing. Did you guys see Riot's mistake with promoting Skara's hot stream by accident?
Yes.
Yeah, because I guess Riot didn't get the memo about Scara's didn't get the memo about Scara's streaming schedule, and they're promoting a hot stream in their launcher or whatever they got over at League of Legends.
Well, and then it was on like they were hosting him on Twitch. So when you went to twitch.tv/League of Legends, it was hot.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Was that your Russian hacker friends that were taking care of that there, Liqiud?
You know what? I think they just screwed up, honestly.
So, do you want to talk about Dyrus's bit with Team 8 before we jump in your esports corner?
No, man, we'll get it when we get down there because there's so much to go over.
Well, you know what?
And it'll,
You know what? We're down there.
Hey,
we
yo,
are
how
down
you
there.
doing? It's time for Liquid's esports corner. That's right. And you're gonna want to stick around for this.
Take it away, Liqiud.
Man, I get jazzed up every time I hear that thing. And I'm like, yeah, let's go. It's going to be fun. All right. So Dyrus. So this is the part Daz added to the show notes. So I roll into work this morning. I'm like, cool. I'm going to check out Reddit. I'm going to check out Twitter. I'm going to update my show notes. My same normal Wednesday morning routine, right? I pull up Reddit. What the hell? Dyrus is playing with Team 8? Wait, what? Like, am I reading this right? And so all of a sudden I go on this frantic, like, searching. I'm looking at Twitter. I'm looking at Reddit. I'm, like, reading everything. Holy crap, Dyrus is playing with Team 8 this weekend. They're scrimming tomorrow, and they're streaming the scrims live. So anybody that wants to check out what Team 8 scrims are like, check out the stream tomorrow. But then he's playing with Team 8 in an HGC game this weekend. Thus, this is my point, right? Like, these guys are solving is mechanics more important than game knowledge? Because yes, he's been playing for a couple of weeks now, almost a month, but his game knowledge is not like Glaurung's game knowledge, or even Chew8's game knowledge for that matter. But he's going to play in an HGC Pro game this weekend, and it's an important pro game, because if Team 8 wants any chance to get second place, two things need to happen for that. GFE needs to lose, and tomorrow night we'll talk about why I'm picking GFE to lose 2-3, and Team 8 needs to win. Wait, I totally screwed that up. Anyway, I totally screwed that up. I'm like just thinking to myself, wait a minute, is that right? Is that right? That might be right. I don't know. I have esports on the brain at this point. My brain is fried. All right, and my mouse just locked up, so I can't even change my screen. So, in the show notes, we have all the links. We have a link to Glaurung's tweet where everybody discussed it. We have a link to 2 Reddit threads where Blizzard has confirmed, in fact, he can play for Team 8 this weekend. So,
why
let's see what happens.
Do they actually want him to play? Oh, obviously they want him to play, or else this wouldn't be happening. But it just seems strange to me. Someone who played literally their first Here's the Storm game like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and now he's in HGC playing with one of the top teams in North America. That just seems crazy.
I think it's a PR thing.
But even if it's no, butt in, man. You're here because
you got to wrestle the mic away from us, bud.
That's a butt in. What?
You butt in. Butt in whenever you can.
So Guaz asked an interesting channel. Who's he subbing for? That's the question on everybody's mind. Who's he taking out of position? Now, we all know how I feel about Prismaticism. They picked him up at the last minute because they needed a player to fill the slot because Chew8 left. But Dyrus doesn't play the same role that Prismaticism plays. So if they're subbing him in for Prismaticism, who's going to move to take Prismaticism's spot that Dyrus is then going to fill, right? So it's this weird, like, I don't know how this is going to work. I'm interested to see, like, what happens. Like, really interested. I think this is going to be probably... At first, I agree. I think it's probably just a marketing stunt. But, like, can we just take a minute to appreciate the fact that a League of Legends player is going to play a professional HGC game this weekend? Like, that's freaking
I love it.
Huge, right?
I'm all in. I think that's gonna we're probably gonna have an extra 5,000 to 6,000 viewers on that match than we would normally have. Absolutely, if not more.
And that's what's got me excited. Like,
I want to chime in here. So, League of Legends player. Speaking of League of Legends players playing professional HOTS, Zuna actually used to play League of Legends, and he used to be on a professional team called Vulcan, and then they changed the name to something else. But he used to play professional League of Legends.
Did he feed in League of Legends too?
Yes.
Gotta ask, man. It's Zuna. All right. So moving down to the next, I'm really excited. If you can't tell, I'm like super excited about this. Like this morning I like logged into Discord and just started typing at Daz like, oh my God, did you see this? Of course you saw it. You put it in the notes while I was still asleep, but huge news. Secondly, we had a patch drop today. We're going to talk about it, the balance patch. Tweeted out immediately to like everybody at Blizzard. TBK Zord also tweeted out to the one person I forgot at Sea of Steve. And he got back to us. This weekend will be played on last week's patch. So 2.25.2. We're now currently on live. We're on 2.25.3. But Genji is available this weekend. So Korea is going to be crazy. I cannot wait to see what they do with Genji. Like, or anybody else for that matter. But like Korea on Genji, dude. Also, McDB, I did read that it might just be Yoda and it might just be for one game, but I'm excited to find out if that's really what's happening. But yes, thank you. Okay. You moved. All right, there we go. I can't look at my notes because my mouse is still jacked. All right. So Latin America, like one of the things I told Daz, and it's on my bio on Creators of the Storm, I'm a huge proponent of all of the regions, and I think Blizzard doesn't cover the smaller regions enough. I think Southeast Asia, Latin America, ANZ, I don't feel like they get their due. But Latin America had some serious drama come out today, where it looks like either someone in ESL or someone in Blizzard told Royal Gaming they could use a sub, but previous to that, they had told Team Dynasty they couldn't use a sub. And so both teams took it to Reddit and are complaining about it. Blizzard has said they're going to look into it and figure out what's going on. Both threads are in our show notes. If you want to read some, it's not really like drama like these guys are horrible drama. But there's drama there, and it's an interesting read just to kind of see some of the stuff that's going on in Latin America. I suggest reading it. The most interesting thing to me was Dynasty's reaction when Royal Gaming Club got to play with a sub. I think I have that right, not backwards. But they threw the game basically, and then they didn't even play game 2, and so it's like, and that falls into the bad sportsmanship clause, in my opinion.
Yeah, there was a couple of comments on Reddit about it. They threw a temper tantrum, and then what was it? 2 days later, they were rewarded for it.
Right. Like, how is that supposed to work, and how does that keep no? So, but interesting reads nonetheless. I think. Also, in one of the threads, I think it was the first thread, so it should have been Royal Gaming Club, a Brazilian esports writer actually came in and gave what he observed and what he's interviewed and kind of like a third-party view of it. So a lot of interesting stuff. If you have any desire to read anything about, not NA, EU, Korea, or China, go check out those threads because they were interesting. All right, so moving on. L5 is the only remaining undefeated team, and I think that will hold. I don't think anything's going to change this weekend. NA and EU, both #1 teams, are 12-1. And the craziness is in China, there are 3 teams that are 5-1 right now. And nobody has answered how the tiebreaker is going to work yet. DB Smiley's asked, I've asked, I know other people have asked, and nobody's come out and said, this is what we're going to do with the tiebreakers. But there's no games on Monday or Tuesday for China. So the 5-1 record is what's going into midseason brawl. What are they going to do? Nobody knows. So that'll be interesting to see what happens. But for sure in China, keep it simple and start over again. Those guys are going to the Crucible. I have yet to find any coverage of Open Division in China or Open Division in Korea. So if you find that, podcast at thenexustrolls.com or tweet us at thenexustrolls. Like, I'm dying to find some of that coverage. Jumping into Korea, L5 is confirmed to go to mid-season brawl. 100% they're going. McDB, I'm going to answer that when I get a little bit further. All right, sorry, just answering chat. Raven and Team Blossom definitely going to the Crucible. The stepladder playoff, the only spots that really matter is Tempest going to be MVP Black? And who's going to finish second seed, and then which one of them is going to win? Will MVP Black keep Tempest out of the midseason brawl, or will Tempest get past MVP Black? Personally, I'm voting that Tempest gets by MVP Black, but we won't know till they play. All right.
Really?
Yeah, that's my thing. I totally, like, if you look at the history between those two teams, the strongest games and the biggest struggle with MVP Black has been when they played Tempest. 100%. Now, it's a little different when you go L5 versus MVP Black because those games are always really competitive too. But Tempest always loses to L5. So it's really like, it's this weird thing where I think Tempest actually understands how to beat MVP Black, but not how to beat L5. And so you get into this kind of weird dynamic.
It's like a rock, paper, scissors.
Right. And so Tempest is the rock to MVP Black scissors to L5's paper, right? So it's
you don't want to be the paper in that scenario.
No, but the funny thing is L5 keeps winning. So who cares if they're paper? They're winning, man. It's like, it's not just a single piece of paper. It's a whole freaking ream. And there ain't scissors on the earth that are cutting through that whole freaking ream. So, all right. So jumping into EU. Fnatic's going to the Mid-Season Brawl. B-Genius is going to the Crucible with Synergy. The battle in EU to watch is really the battle for last. Who's going to end up in number 8? And does it even really matter? Really, realistically, it doesn't. Team Gang Gang, led by my boy BKB, are going to get to pick who they want to face. And I'll cover that a little bit more when I get down to the Open Division, because I found some really interesting things about Open Division. All right, so moving out of there, Team Liquid has an easier path to second place right now, so they may actually end up going to the Mid-Season Brawl with Fnatic, but that's going to be interesting to see. The Dignitas Liquid fight for second place is going to be fun to watch. NA, Tempo storms through. Period. Done. End of story. They're going to Mid-Season Brawl. Will they be able to overcome their, oh my god, we can't play at an international event challenges? Only time will tell. Niventic, definitely going to the Crucible with no tomorrow. Again, we have a battle for last. Excuse me. Who's going to end up in 8th? I don't think it's going to matter, because if I'm being honest, if LFM Esports or Imported Support get 1 and 2 or finish, if one of them gets through, if they pick Niventic, Niventic's gone. So all we're looking for now is how is the seeding going to work for the Step Ladder playoff. I do want to see GFE end in 3rd. I think that's where they belong the way they've been playing. I love GFE. I'm a huge GFE fan. I think they're going to end up in 3rd. We'll see what happens this weekend. All right. Excuse me. Over to the Open Division. So the way Open Division is going to work, the number 1 seed coming out of Open Division gets to pick its opponent out of the number 7 and 8 of HGC Premier League. That's what they're calling it in EU, and I actually like that. So MAA got picked off real early in EU, and what ended up happening is Team Zealot and Team Gang Gang made it through. Gang Gang getting the win 3-1, so they get to pick their opponent. Team Zealot has to play the other team that's available. It will be a best of 7. That's going to be sick, because if you think about a best of 7, that means every map is involved, right? There's only 9 maps in the map pool for HGC. 2 maps get banned. They potentially have to play a game on every single map that's remaining if it goes all 7 games. So that's really, really, really cool in my opinion. So for NA, we have a whole slew of teams signed up. 14 of the 16 are set in a bracket right now. You can find the bracket. I've linked the bracket in our show notes. Because of the roster team explosions we've had, and because of some ties we have like a 4-way tie going on right now in 16th place. They're going to do a playoff to determine who ends up in the top 16 Monday. Then Monday they'll do all the way to the semifinals and finals. Tuesday will be the semifinals and finals. And after Tuesday, we will find out if LFM Esports and Imported Support get through, or if Cure just leaving UTA, and UTA is still playing minus Cure but with somebody else, will be good enough to push themselves into the Open Division, or into the Crucible rather, with a chance to take out Niventic, because I don't think Niventic's going to survive that Crucible. All right.
I think they're just going to be on full tilt.
I know they will be. It's Niventic. Honestly, so I posited something on last week's 323 Weekly. And maybe I did it here too. I'm really not sure. Like I said, it all kinds of run together now. I think Niventic wants to get out so they can completely redo their roster.
Just blow it up, right?
Yeah, just blow it up and completely redo it. And the reason I think this is Blizzard just released new roster swap rules. And this goes into McDee's question. All right. You have a roster change window from May 29th to June 10th now. But if your team is coming into the HGC from Open Division, your roster is locked until after Phase 2. If the team's in the Crucible or the playoffs, you cannot use substitute and have to play with the 5-man roster from Phase 1. If you're in the event... Wait, teams will play... Okay, teams in the actual mid-season brawl have to use the Phase 1 rosters. So like if you're in any events, you can't actually change until after you're out of the event. So the stepladder playoff, for instance, right? You can't actually change until you're eliminated from the stepladder. So if you make it the whole way through the stepladder, you're stuck. Like, let's say Team 8 gets the whole way through the stepladder. They can't officially replace Prismaticism until they're out of Midseason Brawl. But here's the catch. If you're in Midseason Brawl, there's no time in the window for you to ever make a change. So if you qualify for Midseason Brawl, you're stuck with your roster till the end of Phase 2.
So what I believe Blizzard's trying to do here is they're trying to promote parity. They want the bottom teams, the teams that aren't at the top, making it to the big international event, to try and make the moves that they need to make to get better, and that the teams that are at the top maybe don't need to.
Right. And I agree with you. I think that's what they're trying to do, which is awesome, right? Like, I totally support these changes to the rules. I think these are good changes. And they changed it so you can do 2 roster swaps now instead of just the single roster swap, which is also big, right? But here's what I think is going to happen to answer McD's question. I think Cure has the ability to get onto a team.
Oh, no doubt.
Right? And I think there are a number of teams that would like to get him. The question is which team is going to pick him up and when they're going to pick him up. Because you have to, like, the windows are so small depending on where it is. Like, you have to line it up to get that in place, right? And so it's going to be interesting to see how that works. I'm going to answer the last esports question because I know I'll talk all night about this, Daz. But I'm going to answer Guaz's question. I think one of two things is going to happen. I think either the owner of Niantic is so high on the brothers, he's going to keep them and get rid of the other 3, or I'm hoping he just nukes everybody and picks up like one of the open division teams, or like let's say LFM Esports makes it through, right? It says, hey, we will sponsor you in division, we'll give you more money, come play for us, or something like the Team Liqiud Misfits type thing where we want to absorb this team, we're just going to kick our old team out. It'll be interesting to see what happens. So, but I definitely, if the owner of Niantic is so high on the brothers that he keeps them, they're going to be in the same situation. I also think that B-Step needs to let is it I think it's iDream. No. Yeah, iDream go. I think that's the problem with B-Step right now.
So wait a minute. So Niantic might get kicked out and be replaced by a new Niantic?
Yeah. The owner,
in theory.
right, in theory, the owner, like the team itself, the ownership, right? GFE could say tomorrow, we no longer want this roster to be GFE, and could just bail, right? Now that would be a stupid decision. They're number 2 right now in the league. Like, why would you? Like, there's prestige from owning the number 2 HCC team, but why would you? So why would you do that? But they could absolutely do that. The owner of GFE could wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? We're done. We're gonna buy out your contracts. We're gonna let you guys go. That team would still be the 5 players in HCC, but they would call themselves something different. Let's just say they're gonna call themselves Fan Squad of Goons, right? Just for the sake of argument. So now you have Fan Squad of Goons playing in HCC.
Where'd you come up with that name,
GFE
by the way?
can be like, I want to buy the UTA team. So he buys the UTA team, adds a 5th player to it. Now that's GFE. It's no longer the team that we know, Fan, Udall, Crowan, Akaface, and Equinox. Now GFE is the old UTA team minus Cure, right? He can absolutely do that because he's the owner of the team. But the team that made it into HGC is the team of the 5 players. So the HGC slot stays with Fan, Udall, Akaface, Crowan, and Equinox. So, yes. Whew. That wasn't too bad.
You're pretty good.
I do have one question. I apologize. I don't want to drag this on forever because I know you guys have a lot to get through. But
Daz did this last week, so just ask your question.
Yeah,
all right. Do you see either of the EU Open teams making it into the HGC?
Yes. I think both Open teams have a chance to make it in. The question is going to come down to so Team Gang, as of yesterday, Team Gang could make their decision, right? They haven't. In fact, BKB tweeted today, "Stop making shit up."
I saw that.
Decided who we're gonna pick, right? But as of yesterday, they had that opportunity, right? When they make that decision, I will know better. But right now, it's in the air, right? each team will match up differently against each team that they pick, so it's going to be interesting to see who they pick. I think they're also, if I was them, I'd want to watch the games this weekend to really decide who I want to play against, right? There's no reason not to. Take an extra week, watch those two teams like really heavily and decide from there. I think in all of the big four divisions, there is a team that has the ability to get eliminated, whether it's China, Korea, EU, or NA. There's absolutely a team, if not two teams, that can 100% get pulled out of HCC Premier League.
And that's what makes the Crucible so exciting, right?
Yeah. I'm actually more excited about the Crucible than I am about the midseason brawl. The midseason brawl, I can tell you right now, L5 is going to win. The rest of the teams are going to be fighting for the scraps. L5 is going to dominate again, especially because I expect D.Va to be playable at that point. Between D.Va and Genji, we're going to see some shit out of the Koreans that we've never seen before and just be like, what?
I think it's going to be a dogfight between them and Black, but we'll see.
Well, right, okay, but that assumes that Tempest doesn't take Black out in the step ladder. Right? I'm operating under the assumption that Tempest takes out Black in the step ladder, which means L5's path to winning is easy. I say that, and Fnatic is still going to put up a fight, and NA is meaningless, and China with E-Star and CE both doing great things will also put up a fight against Korea. But I think at the end of the day, L5 will win. I mean, look, there's a reason that L5 is currently the #1 team in the world ELO ratings that DB Smiley puts together every week by a good margin, like 16 points right now over Black, 100 points over Fnatic. They're just that much better than every other team right now. So I 100% believe they will end up in first place. If you go into it with that kind of outlook, then yeah, the Crucible is definitely what you want to watch. I think I'll watch it all because I was telling the guys at work today I consume like 40 plus hours of esports every week, and they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. They're like, how do you have time to do anything? I'm like, this is just what I do. So I'll watch it, but I'm definitely more excited about Crucible than I am about mid-season brawl.
Yeah, back. So I'm not sure if you noticed, you put a quarter in Liqiud, and it goes for about 2 minutes. So if you
get great value out of it.
I know it is.
Yeah, great value.
Do you have any more quarters to pump into Liqiud before we move on to the next segment?
No more quarters. I just wanted to comment that I'm glad that you think Team Freedom's going to win this weekend because I'm a homer and I'm a big Team Freedom fan. So we'll see if they can beat GFE. I don't have as high hopes as you do, but I want that to happen. Yeah. And then as far as in Europe, I guess like the common thought process has been that Team Zealot is going to take out whoever they go up against.
Right.
But I think after like Athero left the team hasn't been as strong. Now that he's playing for Team Expert. And I like watching the play last night. It doesn't feel as crisp as the HGC teams. Maybe that's so. I'm a big BKB fan too, just coming from way back on Town Hall, and I want him to be in the HGC. Yeah. I want to see my boy in the Pro League. I know, just following him on Twitter, the struggle has been real for him. But
right, I feel like he has not gotten the respect he really deserves. But
man, there are Twitch clips out there for days with him just absolutely making plays.
Right, I'm like, I would call him the #2 warrior EU without a second's hesitation. I don't think he's quite #1. I have a soft spot in my heart for Breeze. But I think BKB is definitely #2, and I don't think he gets that recognition. Now, maybe some of that's a language barrier, but like I struggle with that being the reason why. But then to answer the other comment you made about how crisp it is, like, sit down and watch B Genius's games. They're not crisp. Like the team playing B Genius, they look crisp. B Genius is like.
They've looked better the last 2 weeks. They made that role swap, and there was a comment that I think Haldor made. It was it's basically an all French team minus one person who's from Russia, and it's just they have to speak in English, which is the second language for both of them. Because of that, they can't all speak in French in comms, and that might be a big issue.
That's why I question whether that's what keeps BKB getting the respect he deserves. Is maybe that kind of issue is the same thing. But the other thing I would point out is, B Genius definitely looks better now after the role swap. Synergy still looks garbage, right?
Yeah. Honestly, if a team's going to get knocked out of EU, I'm putting my money on Synergy.
Right. And so if you look at it that way, And Team Gangang did like crazy good about Zealot. Zealot's been winning Open Division since Open Division started, and Team Gangang comes in and they're like, "That's cool, hold my beer," and then dumpsters in the one. Like, all right, so if that's the way we're going, Synergy, this weekend will determine whether B Genius is still in form or not, and whether or not you want to pick Synergy or B Genius. I think if B Genius plays this weekend the way they played last weekend, you pick Synergy and they get knocked out. If that's what happens, Team Zealot's not beating B Genius. If B Genius plays the way they have since the roster swap, B Genius will get through and they will make a roster change. If B Genius plays how they did during most of Phase 1, Team Zealot and Team Gangang are both going to knock out Synergy and B Genius. So it's all going to come down to whether B Genius's role swap was really enough, and then whether or not they want a roster swap or whether they want to just stick with the role swap and see what happens in Phase 2.
It's also exciting because, I mean, like you said, the Crucible compared to the midseason brawl, these guys are playing for their money. Like
they want their paycheck. Right.
Yes. Whereas the other guys, they're just playing for prize money, and recognition. Which prize money is a big deal, right? Like, don't get me wrong. If I remember correctly, it's like crazy. It's like, hold on, I'm pulling it up right now just so I can see it. It's not BlizzCon money, but it's a lot.
No, it's $80,000. So figure your organization takes 30 off the top. That's an extra 10K. Like, I'd want to win for 10K, right? So I think, but there's a big difference between I want to win for 10K versus I want to win so I can continue doing this for my livelihood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. Sorry.
Never apologize.
No more quarters.
We're fresh out of quarters. No one's putting any 20s in the change machine, I hope, because we've got a lot more to move on to. So we got a balance patch that hit live today. If you didn't catch the news, there was a PTR balance patch a couple days ago, which included a lot of minor tweaks and a few reworks. However, some of those just made it into the live servers today. So those are the ones we're going to cover first. Then we're going to talk about D.Va. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what has kind of been left over in the PTR since those balance patch went live. So we're doing a blitz. We're going to do it the same format as we did last week. We're just going to talk about each character, a few sentences about the changes to them, and have a short discussion on them. We're not going to go into detail about every single change in every hero, because that's just ridiculous. So starting with Cassia. Cassia had a little rebalancing to her heroic abilities. Ball lightning damage was reduced by about 10%, and Valkyrie damage was increased by about 20%. Also, her level 1 talent Charge Strikes, which was performing very well, received a damage bonus reduction, because you used to get a damage bonus of 25% when you took this talent, to 20%, and it was an activatable. And that's also, that activatable will also give you splash damage for your auto attacks too. So that was a very powerful ability, so they're just trying to rein that in a little bit as well. So, Mystic, do you think anyone's going to be taking Valkyrie after this, or is Ball Lightning still the way to go? Because I was in a game yesterday where we got wiped by a Ball Lightning. It's like two ultimates in one. It's like a damage dealing one, but also a fear too, because everyone has to scatter in different directions, right? So that she uses almost the same thing as fear does.
Yeah, I think Ball Lightning is still really good because it's the same thing as like the Fire and Forget spell, right? You just throw it out. It was really strong, so that they nerfed the damage on it. I think that's good. They didn't nerf the cooldown, so you could still throw it out like very freely, but it's still like it does a little bit less damage. Valkyrie, I don't know about the damage buff. Like, while it is nice for Cassia players, I don't feel like that's what the ult is there for. The ult is you throw it out, you get that pick. It's like a Stitches hook on the squishy target, and then you blow them up right after. I mean, yeah, like I said, well, the damage is nice. It's not really what it's there for. Charge Strikes. Oh.
No, go ahead. I'll do it after this.
All right, and now Charge Strikes was very strong, and I feel like this nerf was kind of warranted because there was one time where I was playing Cassia, I activated Charge Strikes, I kept attacking their fort, and you know how the fort is huge, and the entire enemy team was kind of surrounding the fort, and it just splashed all of them and killed all of them. That's pretty ludicrous for a level 1 talent.
And no one realizes Charge Strikes is active too, and it's active for a long time. I'm surprised they didn't nerf the amount of time. I think it's 8 seconds that's activated for. I'm almost surprised they didn't take that down a little bit to compensate.
I think they want it to last 8 seconds. I think it was just the damage was too high. But I want to throw out a shout out to Faye, who used Cassia all this weekend and used Valkyrie all this weekend. And after they won, told Dreadnought and Gillyweed that Cassia is actually one of the best range damage dealers in the game if it fits into your comp. And people are crazy for not taking her. So this change to me does nothing but good things for someone like Faye, who was clearly doing a good job with Cassia. Her Valkyries actually changed pivotal moments in the game. So yeah.
I feel like a pro play, it's not the damage that you need. It's the CC and the repositioning and being able to grab someone from a screen away, pull them to you, knock everyone back out of the way, and get that extra stun as soon as they get to you is really powerful.
But giving you 20% more damage on top of that does not hurt.
Yeah. Free damage.
Free damage.
She's like the new Vala. Always getting stacked with Oriole, I noticed.
Yep.
She's a great hope battery.
Love playing Genji against her, though. If she comes at you with a fend, you just deflect, lose half her health right there because she's not getting her armor bonus, and it's spell damage anyways. So
there's some Twitch clips showing that wiping teams. So yeah.
So Genji got some small changes too. Speaking of Genji, Dragon Claw at 4, that's the activatable that no one took, so if you deflected enough damage, you could use that activatable trait to do like a little small area of effect damage. Cyber Shield at level 7, that gave Spell Armor on his D-Jump ability, now gives Spell Armor for 2.5 seconds, up from 2. And Dodge, which is his version of Block on the same talent tier, has increased cooldown on the charges of Block, so you won't get as many charges of Block from that there. So what do you guys think about the Genji change? It seems more just like kind of bringing a few underpicked talents in line, because there really was kind of the build that was, especially on a few of the lower talent tiers, that were just surfacing as like the go-to picks.
It's too early. It's too early. I mean, the changes were good. They didn't Zarya him, so that's good, right? And we won't see that kind of debacle again. But I feel like it's too early to be making Genji changes.
Oh man, as a person who played Genji a lot, I feel like Dragon Claw is now like a really good talent. So because it doesn't take that much to stack it anymore.
Yeah, but the change wasn't even that much. It was like 100 damage.
Yeah,
so
but
did you really notice that difference? I'm just curious.
Well, it's like the difference between like the extra tower shot, right? If you're using your W to stack it on towers, it's like now you don't have to take that extra tower shot or that extra fort shot to stack it up. And as for the other changes, I feel like Cyber Shield is too long now. 2.5 seconds every time he uses Cyber Shield, or I mean every time he uses his leap ability. Yeah, that's insanely long. And the dodge changes, I feel like were kind of needed because it's just like every 5 seconds. It's like Medic's automated block for Genji, but he shouldn't really have an automated block, I feel like, just because he's already so mobile.
And Genji's win rate's been trending upwards, like almost since every week since release. It keeps going up and up because you're getting those people trying out Genji, or those Overwatch players coming in trying out Genji because he's the cool robot ninja, right? Off of the hero, and we're getting people are becoming more skilled and more refined on Genji playing him. I see people getting a lot of damage on Genji, and oh man, can he ever harass a backline? Probably one of the best heroes to do that, actually.
Right.
Speaking of Genji, I did do my homework for that Agile Dismount talent that we were talking about last week. It's a lot more versatile than I thought. It's really good for pre-fight positioning because you can get really good angles on it, because if you're coming in with your mount, then you get that extra distance, and then you jump over like a wall or something to position, and then your jump is only on a 5-second cooldown, so you can reposition really quickly after.
So just a little recap, that's the talent that's a level 1 talent where you get an extra, I think, 70% range on your jump ability if you're mounted. So we were always like, why would anyone take this at first? And then we noticed that it actually had the higher win rate, and Mystic's homework was to check it out and let us know how it worked out for him. So I was joking, but apparently he took it seriously. Mystic. He
I did it.
So yeah, and I guess that's, like I said, the argument for it, right? You can save your E, and you can save that to be the escape as opposed to the engage tool too. Okay, Illidan got some small changes to his Unending Hatred. It's his level 1 talent, which is his seasoned marksman equivalent. It got a buff of 100% instead of 0.1 increase in damage per minion kill. He now gets 0.2. So the talent was very underpicked, and this is a fairly big buff. You know what this reminds me of is when Falstad's Gathering Storm ability, I think it was, where you throw his Hammerang, and he would stack it, went from 1 to 2. All of a sudden it became the go-to pick because it doesn't sound like a lot, but you're buffing it by 100%. So, any of you guys play Illidan? I'm a horrible Illidan player, but is this something we're going to be seeing maybe Illidan's take to increase their auto-attack damage?
I suck at Illidan so much.
I play him from time to time, but this is actually a really big buff to Unending Hatred, and like you said, it was like the less picked talent, but essentially what this means is he gets stacked that much faster, which in turn like increases the amount of lifesteal that he gets because it's based off of how much damage he does, right? So
this is the Kerrigan problem. Remember when Kerrigan got some damage buffs and all of a sudden she was super OP? As soon as you start augmenting damage to heroes with lifesteal based on their damage, it can snowball really quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how Illidan shakes out after this, but I think there might be a surprising jump in his win rate based on something along these lines. So, what about Nova? Oh, God, I hate when I see Nova getting buffs. Last thing I want to see
awesome.
More people being like, "Oh, Nova's meta now. Bring her into Hero League."
He is, man. Accept it. Move on.
So
Healthy's rule.
Nova, who please never pick in Hero League. If you see me, if you see a Daz, I came across a Daz impersonator, by the way.
I saw that
this week. I was just playing, I think, Quick Match, and I was running around, and I was like, Daz, why is my name above? I thought it was a glitch. I was like, oh my God, there's another Daz in the game. And she was playing Cassia, and she was a much better player at the game than I was. So it was a much superior version of Daz, I guess. Daz 2.0. She showed me a couple things there. Anyhow, Nova. So stacking snipe damage with Snipe Master at level 7 will no longer lose stacks when hitting non-heroes. So it just makes it a little bit easier to keep those stacks of Snipe Master. But it was a fairly pick too. Like a lot of people pick that. So it makes it a little bit easier.
That needed to be done.
It's just a quality of life change, right?
Yeah. Like, that really needed to be done. It's good that they did that. Yeah. I mean, now Nova's more popular because that was one of the most annoying things because that was definitely the go-to talent at 7. But yeah.
And Zul'jin had a basic attack damage reduction of 4%. Voodoo Shuffle, which I had to look up to because I don't think I've taken that one very often. It's an activatable trait that breaks roots and slows. Its cooldown was reduced from 30 seconds to 10 seconds. So if you're against Arthas, I guess this might be a go-to here because you can pretty much break out of any route and get a little bit more aggressive. That's a pretty impressive reduction there. What do you guys think about that?
Please, sir, pick my talent. That's all that was. In fact, go ahead, Mystic.
I was going to say, well, I feel like it is pretty good. And like you said, versus maybe Malf or Arthas or something, it'd be pretty good. It doesn't actually make it so that you're immune to slows for any period of time. So if you're still in that Arthas slow, you're just going to be slowed instantly after. And the talents that it's up against, Forest Medicine, I feel like is really good. And Eye of Zul'jin is also like, it's all right. So.
It had a 4.5% pick rate. Nobody was taking that talent.
Only 4 out of 100 dentists were taking that one.
Well, I mean, like, let's be honest, right? Like, that's about as low as it ends up getting, realistically. Yeah. So
I looked up some of the pick rates.
There's a couple that are lower.
They're pretty well, not to split hairs, but I was surprised how many low pick talents got buffed today. So Varian,
statistically, it's very low.
Yes, for sure. Varian had a basic attack damage increase of 4% today. And Overpower, that's level 1 talent, where you get bonus damage after parrying. The attack bonus was reduced from 25 to 20%. Basic attack damage bonus from completing his level 1 questing talent, High King's Quest, which used to be the go-to, has been increased by 50%. And Warbringer, which again used to be the go-to, but now it's sliding off the meta, at level 4 is now reduces the mana cost of his charge by 50% as well. Level 7, Live by the Sword, now needs 4 basic attacks to reduce the cooldown of parry, up from 2, which I think is probably an important change too, because if you played in any games where people were attacking that Varian, he pretty much would have that parry up all of the time. So what do you guys think about Varian here? Got any thoughts on this, Bahgz?
I mean, it comes across to me as kind of like a quick match change, like what they just did to Valera. Because like what you're gonna find in like the pleb ranks is like Varian's invincible because his parry's constantly resetting, and people aren't just aware that like when that's up, you just don't touch him and you wait for it to drop and go on cooldown. You know. So that's kind of what I got out of it, and they want to build up the diversity. They want people to try and get away from just playing Varian as only a tank.
Taunt Varian is gotta be one of the most frustrating things to play against, especially in quick match.
Just because nobody knows how to deal with it doesn't mean you need to nerf my now second most played hero into the ground. First they came for Valera. And I didn't say anything. I cried, but I didn't say anything. Now they've come for Varian. What's next, Blizzard? You've already killed my cow and put him out to pasture. Come on! Like, and you've already nerfed Varian. You nerfed him. You nerfed it so hard, and now you're nerfing him again. Like, Blizzard, please stop doing this to me. I just need to look. If any of you like playing heroes, do not play the heroes I play, because clearly I am like the running trend for Blizzard. Nerf this.
You're cursed.
Like, dude, I'm sorry that QM sucks, but come on. Like, really?
You know who's missing from the patch notes is ETC too. You think that he would have gotten maybe a minor buff out of these balance patch changes too. I guess they're just kind of slowly cranking him back up a little bit.
Blizzard thinks he's okay, even though he's not. Actually, I can't.
Well, he did see play in Korea.
He did see play in Korea, and I actually played him today and carried my wife pretty hard on ETC. I was like, see, I told you I could do this. She's like, yeah, you're staying on ETC from now on. I was like, damn, all right. So, yeah.
Hey, Probius got a rebalance to his heroics as well. Pylon Overcharge gives less health to pylons and does 6% less damage now. And Nullgate does slightly more damage. Not too surprised here, considering that, you know, Pylon Overcharge seemed to be the go-to pick and was a really nice one for those team fights as well. Do we think Nullgate's going to be picked anymore here? Is it really about the damage for Nullgate? You're more looking at the slow, but I guess maybe pumping down the brakes on Pylon Overcharge might make the other one look a little bit more attractive.
It's like blinding, or not blind. It's like ball lightning. With Pylon Overcharge, it's easy to set up and use. It's got a 96% pick rate. Come on.
Yeah.
You know what my problem is? like Blizzard needs to understand that it's okay if one talent is picked so much more than another. You don't have to make all the talents be even. Sometimes it's cool to say, you know what? The really good players that are really on a coordinated team, they'll use Nullgate for the slow and for the, you know, trying to control the battlefield. While the rest of us use Pylon Overcharge. That's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, 4% though. That's pretty low, or 6%, whatever the math worked out there for Nullgate. So I can see why they might want to touch it up a little bit.
I mean, yeah, but does it matter? Like, realistically, right? Like, does it matter if, you know, everybody's taking one talent over the other? Like, is that really the most critical thing Blizzard needs to worry about right now?
They do like to have it so that players have to make decisions on the way. There's no point to having talents if there are talents that you have to pick, right? And that's something that Blizzard's identified.
Like, that's why I like the reworks. They said, you know what, this isn't working. Let's go rework something. Like, replace Nullgate with something better then. Don't, like, try to make one less attractive and one slightly more attractive. Like, let's make a better decision instead of that decision, I guess.
Give Nullgate, like, what you did to Malfurion's Twilight Dream, where you gave it mana regen.
Right.
Instead of that, you give it something else.
I thought you were going to say, like, silences everyone in the gate. I was like, that would do it.
Yeah.
That would actually be a really cool change. And people would suddenly pick Nullgate, right? Like, do something like that. Don't nerf. Like, it's always bothered me that Blizzard nerfs heroics to the point where you pick the other heroic. Like, that's not good game design. Make the other, like, it's the same way with everything. And I'm sure it is good game design, and I'm just complaining because I'm a player. But, like, instead of nerfing things into the ground, make the other thing, like, bring the other thing up. Don't bring Pylon Overcharge down. Bring Nullgate up. Give it the silence. The silence is a great idea, man. That's like, I like that.
Well, you guys inadvertently gave me the idea with the Malfurion comment too.
Yeah, or if they walk through the null gate, they lose like 25% or damage, or just they're vulnerable or something.
Right, like something. Like, make null gate better. Don't make... Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I've complained about that since, like, forever, though. Back in City of Heroes, I was complaining about that.
You never have to apologize. This is a platform for you getting your opinion off, right?
That's a good point.
So Ariel had some hope generation changes. So damage to non-heroes reduced from 8% to 5%. I guess Ariel was seeing a bit of an uptick there after her recent buffs to her damage. So I guess this is just to kind of compensate for that. Lili, who probably definitely needed some damage reduction, got it. Cloud Serpent got damage reduction. Blinding Wind cooldown was increased by 1 extra second, and it had a mana increase as well. Gale Force level 1, the damage bonus to Blinding Wind was reduced from 50 to 40%. Lightning Serpent level 7, the damage that's where the damage bounces on your Lightning Serpents was also reduced slightly too. Yeah, I guess you really don't want to have that intro healer, easy character to play be one of the highest damage output characters in the game with a heal on the side, right?
Lili was the one character my wife actually was really enjoying playing, and then they nerfed her today, and I was like, shit, this is gonna suck. And I told my wife, and she's like, really? They nerfed the one character I liked right now? Like, really?
She was never horrible, especially in the lower leagues too. Like, I feel like it's just she's boring to play, to be honest with you. That's the reason I never really stuck with Lili.
Well, I think she's a good, like, gateway player, like, hero, right? Because,
gateway
like, you
drug,
can learn,
right?
Right. Well, instead of, like, this is actually a conversation we had tonight, was instead of my wife worrying about everything else, she felt like she could just watch player bars, make sure she was keeping people healthy, and, you know, hit her buttons when her buttons were available, but, like, learn the game as opposed to, you know, oh my god, I have to do all this stuff. And it was kind of nice because I'd be like, I'm sitting here, we're in the same room when we play, and I'm like, do you have jugs? Do you have jugs? And I'm going in for a mosh, and she's like, yeah. I'm like, pop it! And I run in and I mosh like 4 people, and the 5th person's trying to kill me. But it was kind of cool. But yeah, I was sad. You know who this one really affects? This one really affects pros that we're doing, or even higher level that we're doing Lili as a second healer, because damage build Lili is insanely strong. Well, it was insanely strong.
It's I think it was. I don't think it's a terrible nerf. From what I remember when they buffed her, what was it? 2 patches ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It was. This is like a halfway point. It's not quite down to where she was. So we'll see how it works out.
So Lucio got some changes too. His passive healing amount reduced from 3 to 2. So a little tickle heal. He's going to tickle a little bit less. Still, I know that's not his main output of healing, but obviously Lucio has been a very powerful healer, so they decide that's where they're going to nerf him. And they took out Heliotropes, his sound wave blind talent at level 16. But no one picked it anyway, so I'm not sure why exactly they bothered removing it. So I'm not sure if it's just to try and get the blind out of his kit. Do you guys see any reason for taking it?
I think Blizzard realized, hey, this is actually the talent tier where, like, you bring up Lucio's healing, and they're like, why does this even exist on this talent tier? So I think that was the reasoning for it, and then nobody picked it.
So I think it's to boost the frequency choice, which is actually sitting lower than Heliotropics.
Oh, is it?
Yes, it's at 2.5%, where Heliotropics was at 3%.
Okay, 3%.
So 2.5% of those 3% are going to go over to that, and the rest are going to.
I mean, like, realistically, like, looking at the percentage, like, just let's look at the raw numbers. 13,350 people picked Rejuvenencia out of 21,000 games. No, that's too high. Out of 17,000 games. So 80% of people pick Rejuvenencia. Why do you even have another talent there, Blizzard? They need to, like, instead of just removing Heliotropics, they need to, like, move some talents around with Lucio. Because Bakery, TBK Zord again today tweeted out specifically to Bakery, I don't heal, so I'm interested to see how much this really affects Lucio. And Bakery's answer was, it doesn't. You're not a great healer until 16 anyway. So you're still not a great healer, but you hit 16 and grab Rejuvenencia, and now you're a great healer. So it's either going to become baseline, or they're going to like change the kit a bit, where like a portion of it becomes baseline, but then another portion of it you can pick at 16 to try and say, well, you don't need the whole Rejuvenencia at 16. You can get, you know, a third of the Rejuvenencia is baseline, and then maybe you'll pick the other talents. Or they need to do like the talent shuffle, which they've done a couple of times in the past, where they've moved talents around to fit them onto different tiers. They did that with Varian's banners, right? 13 versus 16. So I feel like that's what they really need here with Lucio, because they're not going to get it otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to make his Rejuvenencia available any lower, considering he is already like such a highly picked healer and seen as one of the only true solo healers, I guess, left around. It almost seems like every healer requires a secondary support nowadays. Speaking of...
Medic still goes solo.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of healers that need secondary supports, Uther got a minor change to his level 1 Wave of Light. Now only returns 8 mana per hero hit, down from 10. So I've played a lot of Uther, and I've had a lot of mana problems, so this is just going to make that a little bit worse.
Yeah, I saw that. I could, like, just question marks abound. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe because his win rate's up a bit. Have we seen... I guess we haven't hit Uther
not enough.
Not in pro play yet with the changes, because were we on the patch last week? We were.
Yeah. No. They played Uther. In shoot, I don't have his win rate this weekend. Sorry.
I don't have the numbers in front of me. He's doing well in NA, but the other regions he's not doing as well.
Yes, that's what I recall too. I just don't have the numbers in front of me. I would also put forward that this really sucks being from the
They've
NA.
had solo heal comps with Uther too, which I noticed. I didn't expect that.
Right. So this sucks being from NA, but NA is just not a good judge of like reality.
Classic NA.
Right? I mean, like that. I wish that wasn't the case, but NA is just not a good judge of where he ends up fitting. All right, he had a 48% win rate on the current patch. So, yeah. Take that as what it's worth.
Well, that's what they did do with her. Anubarak. So, Anubarak's had a pretty healthy win rate. He's been picked in a lot more comps than people would have expected, considering he's supposed to be the anti-mage tank, but now he seems to be like a generally good CC tank. So I guess they just tried to nerf his survivability a bit by taking his Locust Swarm ultimate damage reduction of 10% there. Level 1 Nerubian Armor, that's where he gets more Spell Shield. The cooldown has been increased from 8 to 12. Level 4 Bed of Barbs, that's where he gets Persistent Spikes when he uses his Q. The damage is reduced slightly. Level 7 Chitness Plating, which had a low pick rate of around 10%, has its cooldown reduction to W increased when taking damage. So a little buff there. Each instance of damage reduces cooldown by 1 second instead of 0.75.
So, I play a lot of Anubarak after the last set of changes. I still think he was nerfed too far a long time ago when they nerfed his his Burrow Charge. But I still play a lot of him. I like him. I never took Bed of Barbs. Like, I know a lot of people took Bed of Barbs. I'm just not a fan.
I
like Underking. I like the range and damage on my Burrow Charge, because it's so helpful when you're chasing people down. So I like Underking over Bed of Barbs. But I think that was a decent change to Bed of Barbs, because if you look, the standard build is definitely Bed of Barbs. So I get that. I used to be all about the Chitness Plating too. But now I've gone Subterranean Shield instead, just because getting that shield when I dive in with my Underking, totally worth. But this one I haven't had a chance to test, but I may actually go back, because having that cooldown reduction up, even though it's only a quarter of a second, man, everybody attacks you when you dive. So if you can survive the initial attack, you go in, you pop it, and then everybody's attacking you, it's back up like almost instantaneously, I think. So I might have to try that.
Sonya got a bit of a nerf today too. It's probably the biggest nerf from a one-sentence bullet point you can probably get here. Whirlwind cooldown increased from 4 to 5 seconds. That's a significant amount of time.
Invincible.
Yeah, 25% longer to wait for that to come off cooldown.
It's not going to change her. I mean, I know it will a little bit, but
watch us just tank her win rate, and like you're going to be eating your words. I think it's a pretty big change here.
No, I think in pub match this is a huge change. I think in pro play the 1 second's not going to make a big bit of difference.
I don't know about that, because in pro play, if you think about it, right, if there's a Sonya whirlwinding, in pro play, like, what's your first reaction to that? Stun it as fast as you can. So with that, if they stun it within a second of you activating it, then it's 4 seconds of you not having whirlwind instead of 3 seconds of you not having whirlwind.
Okay, but I would put forward that this change is actually targeted at the people who use whirlwind to survive shit that they never should have survived. It's like variance parry, right? It's, yeah, man, keep coming at me. I'm just gonna keep this parry up. You're never gonna kill me. Like, that's what this change was targeted at, and that you don't see that in pro play as often as you see that in pub league, right? Like, you just don't. You do sometimes, and I'm not trying to say that there will never be that chance. I saw it last night in the Open Division Finals where Sonya should have died like 3 times over, but she kept whirlwinding because it was constantly up, right? So I get that situation happens, but this change was targeted at that, I think, more than I stunned you out of your whirlwind and now you're screwed for 4 seconds instead of 3. Which is why I think it'll affect pub league more than pro.
It's funny that you say that. Bahgz and I we're in the Gathering Storm tournament that's coming up in the beginning of June. Yep. And so we had the team together and we were practicing in Team League, and we were on Towers. I don't know if he's still in the stream or not, but he can vouch. We were on Towers of Doom, and it was 4 of the 5 of us, I think, were trying to kill Sonya by herself. It was late game, so she had all the talent she needed to be buffed, and I was on Arthas, like, and my theory with drafting Arthas was like, all right, so like I'm gonna immediately counter the Sonya because I'm just gonna slow down all her auto attacks, right? But then I realized that when we're trying to take her down 4v1 and unable to for what must have felt like forever, but it was probably like 10-15 seconds, and she just kept whirlwinding and regenerating her health. Yeah. And I'm just like, wow, I feel so stupid right now because we didn't draft the stunner. A lot of good Arthas is doing right now. We can't kill her.
Post 13, if she goes life funnel, forget it. If she can spin, you just walk away, dude. You're not getting that kill.
Yeah, Sonya's a funny one too. Like, I often draft to slower auto attack speed too, but you sit there thinking about it, the whirlwind, and even her W does more damage than her auto attacks too in general, right? So she's not as auto attacky as I guess we all give her credit for. Let's move along because we're starting to get long in the show. We still have so much to cover. I blame Liqiud for his esports segment.
It was shorter this week than it was last week.
I know. I give props to Bahgz too because he was like, I could tell you were restraining yourself throughout the segment too. But we'll move along because we got to talk about D.Va. We haven't even talked about D.Va yet since she got her kit elaborated on in the Spotlight video this week too. So D.Va, we'll go over her kit here. Her trait, mech mode. When D.Va's mech is destroyed, she's ejected after 0.75 seconds and can continue to fight in pilot mode. Destroying D.Va's mech only awards 50% of a normal hero's XP. And when she's in pilot mode, each basic attack reduces the cooldown of call mech by 0.5 seconds. As a pilot, D.Va only awards 50% of a normal hero's XP upon death. I guess I should probably say D.Va's a tank from Overwatch. I guess they're kind of classifying her as a bruiser in this case too. She just has a fairly high health pool. We'll get into the discussion a little bit about what kind of her damage output is that we're seeing in the PTR. But interestingly enough, she cannot mount while in mech mode. While she's in mech mode, D.Va can shoot while moving, but her movement speed is reduced by 15%. So she really lumbers about. But she can mount while in pilot mode, that kind of squishy auto attacky mode that's called pilot mode. So she's got 3 basic abilities. Boosters on her Q increases D.Va's movement speed by 125% for 2 seconds. Enemies that are hit take damage and are knocked away. D.Va cannot be slowed while boosters are active, and this is only available while in mech mode. W is her defensive matrix. So again, this is mech mode only. Channel defensive field in the target direction for 3 seconds, reducing damage dealt by enemy heroes inside it by 75%. The mech can move while channeling, but cannot turn. Damage dealt to the mech by enemies within defense matrix still grants the same amount of self-destruct charge. And interestingly enough, Kyle Ferguson over at ITN did a little testing of this too, because it was unclear whether or not it's like from when you cast the ability or when it actually impacts. So if Kael'thas casts, say, Pyroblast, and there's no defensive matrix on him, it doesn't matter. It's only when the impact happens. So if you cast defensive matrix on the Kael'thas at the moment of impact, the character will effectively get the damage mitigation from defensive matrix. It's kind of like an interesting little way that works there too, and I'm assuming it works the same with Flame Strikes and any sort of delayed ability as well.
I don't know if you noticed, but Alebeard was actually the tracer that they cast Pyroblast on.
Oh, was he? Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I saw a little video there of that little science experiment, so well done, Kyle. Self-destruct on her E. This requires mech mode. She ejects from her mech, sending it to self-destruct after 4 seconds. Deals medium to massive damage in a large area, depending on the distance from the center of the blast. Deals 50% damage against structures. Gains 1% charge for every 2 seconds spent using basic attacks, and 30% charge per 100% of mech health lost. And interestingly enough, if you use your boosters, you can actually give some momentum to your self-destruct. So you can boost, you can jump out of it while it's moving, and let it kind of like fly off in that direction. You can actually press Q again to stop it wherever you want. So it's kind of a neat little interaction there that wasn't in the notes. And then when she's in pilot mode, she can call her mech back with her E. This calls a new mech and she enters mech mode. It's a 45-second cooldown, but while in pilot mode, each basic attack lowers its cooldown by 0.5 seconds. If you self-destruct, though, it's instantly available again. So you can blow up your mech on purpose and jump back into it. However, if you die and go into pilot mode, that's where you get the 45-second cooldown. Got 2 heroic abilities. Bunny Hop, which requires mech mode, and it's only active in mech mode. D.Va's mech becomes unstoppable and turns into like literally like a big bunny mech, making like these like old school Nintendo sounds, dude, and stomps every half second, dealing damage in a pretty big area and slowing enemies by 40%. It lasts 4 seconds. It's hilarious to watch. And then our other option is Big Shot, and this is only available in pilot mode. So you gotta make a choice here what kind of playstyle you're going with. There can be more pilot mode for your heroic or mech mode.
No. I didn't think you had to pick. I thought you got them both depending on which mode you were in.
I'm pretty sure you have to pick. Mystic, can you verify that?
You have to pick. If you pick Big Shot, then you will not have an ultimate in mech mode. If you pick Bunny Hop, then you will not have an ultimate in pilot mode.
What?
That's what I thought. I tried her in try mode. I didn't get to try her in games because the queue time was wrong. So yeah, Big Shot's only in pilot mode if you pick it. Deals damage to all enemies in a line. It's a huge, like almost like Gazlo type laser, but it happens really fast. And call mech's cooldown is reduced by 8 seconds for each enemy hero hit. Okay, that's D.Va's kit.
That makes me sad. That makes me. I'm sorry, guys. That I'm like.
Liqiud just died.
I was on
inside.
board with D.Va, and now I'm just like. I was gonna spend my hard-earned gems, Blizzard.
Let's be honest. You spend so many hard-earned gems in this game. You're gonna spend a little bit more to get D.Va out of curiosity, if nothing else.
I know.
So Mystic, you've been playing a lot of D.Va, right? What do you think about her in the PTR currently?
I think she's all right. In quick match, she's going to be like okay tank. You know, she's not going to be super spectacular, but she's not going to be like really bad either. However, in the competitive scene, I can see her being a lot more useful because the self-destruct, if coordinated well, you can wipe an entire team pretty easily, actually. Like VP plus self-destruct and like nuclear option, which is one of the talents that really increases her self-destruct damage, but increases the time it takes to blow up, right? But when it's in a VP, well, you're kind of stuck there, right?
I have a question. Because you used the word tank. Do you think she's actually going to be tank worthy, or do you think Blizzard classifying her as a bruiser is the correct thing for them to have done?
Here's the thing. I feel like without, like, if you don't hit self-destruct, right, everything else you have is basically tank. Like, the damage that she deals is, like, tank-esque, not bruiser-esque, tank-esque. And then, like, she's pretty tanky too. She's like a lot tankier than most bruisers.
Okay.
But she doesn't really have the crowd control to be a tank.
Right.
Like, the crowd control that she provides is actually in her defense matrix, which is the damage reduction. It's not actually crowd control, but it's like pseudo crowd control, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, see, so I feel like she's almost more like Zarya, right? Not comparing the two, but like kind of the role she fills. She's there for a damage reduction on the other team, and to like be, you know, into soak damage with the mech, right? Which would, I guess, bruiser's probably not the right word for it, but I almost feel like there's a role between like a CC tank, which is like a more traditional tank that we see, and a bruiser that's like, I don't even know what I'd call it.
If you view it from the perspective of this, though, I could see why Blizzard would call her a bruiser, because in her mech, she's basically a tank without like, or she's basically a bruiser without the damage and more tanky stats, right? However, in pilot mode, she actually has a lot more damage. I feel like if you take like Big Shot or something, then or as much damage as most bruisers do. So if you're like mech, you're tanky, and then in pilot you're like damage, then if you combine those together, you're like bruiser, right?
Okay. Okay.
I think it's willing to.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think it's good to note too. Big Shot's got a surprisingly low cooldown as well. I think it's, I don't have it in the notes here, but literally only a few seconds, I believe, right, Mystic?
I think it's 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
I know. I think it's shorter than that. I think it's like.
Yeah, I thought it was like 4 or 5.
Yeah, I think it's like 4 or 5.
So,
yeah.
You know what we can do? We can go over to Heroes Hearth. They already have the calculator ready to go.
So
sorry, I'm like pimping everything I can now. Apparently.
So what's the kind of general play style you've been using? Like, do you go blow your mech up, then do you sit in pilot mode and try and get out the damage there? Do you like how's this dynamic work with jumping out of your mech and jumping back in that would bring something to the game and your team comp?
From what I figure, it's like you go in, you like initiate, if you have the bunny hop ultimate, right? You go in with your mech, you be as disruptive as possible, and you try to soak up damage. I say try because there's really no incentive for the enemy team to attack you, really, because you don't have CC. You have the defense matrix, sure, but you know they can walk out of that, or you're just defense matrixing one person, right? So there's no really incentive to focus you down or to kill you. And then while you're in pilot mode, there's a lot of incentive to kill you because you're squishier and you actually deal a lot of damage. So the playstyle, I guess, is like trying to balance that, right? Being as annoying as possible while you're in the mech form, and then having to die to actually deal some more damage.
So a couple things. 4 seconds is the cooldown on Big Shot. Alex the Pro G actually has a build out here that looks like is probably a little more tanky also. So I guess maybe I don't know. Daz, you're right. You know, really I'm buying her. You know I'm buying her.
You know what? And next week we're going to do a deep dive on her. We're going to go into her talent tree and a bit more on the play style. It's really tough because she is so unique to get a good handle on, what the good builds are going to be for her, how the play style is going to shake out and everything too. And we haven't even really talked about using her boosters for, I don't know if we use that for engage. I know you can use it for peel.
Right.
But still, the fact that she only moves like 15% slower than everyone on the battlefield, that feels really, really lumbering too, and that can be a hindrance as well, unless you're paired with a Lucio to bring it back up to basically like regular movement speed, right?
Normal speed.
Yeah.
I guess I know what I'll be doing Tuesday is playing her and sitting in long queues because everybody's gonna want to play her.
Yeah, but people are focusing the D.Va. That's a lot of resources going into killing something that only gives you 50% experience if you happen to get the kill even. So.
Right.
Okay, let's move along to our beta patch blitz. We're gonna go over what is still sitting in the beta after today's patch. This balance patch, like I said before, was released a couple days ago, but a lot of it was moved to live today. So things that didn't make it into live are a couple new things like D.Va. a couple skins and mounts and such, the new welcome bundle, some UI changes, but also some reworks too, which are probably the most important things coming out of this. So, what, look, you don't think the reworks are the most important thing, Liqiud?
No, man, the quality of life changes, like the Hearthstone and the rejoin. Okay, real. Come on, man.
Those are important too, but I'm really excited for the Tyrande changes. So that's what, like, now that I'm a healer main, I like to see Tyrande getting reworked like this. Okay, so let's start off from the top, which is probably to most of us who have been in the game a while, I'd say maybe one of the lesser things here is the welcome bundle. It can only be purchased once and only using real money. You get 800 gems, a welcome loot chest that contains 1 hero, rare loot chest, an epic loot chest, a 7-day stim pack, and a zebra mount. That being said, I don't even know how much this costs. I mean, if this isn't too much, this might be a lucrative thing to jump on, since it is a one-time offer. You do get the 7-day stim pack, you get the couple chests. I mean, the heroes might be moot at this point, but also the 800 gems too. The zebra mount, I'm assuming the star pony, if you haven't gotten that yet, the space pony, whatever it's called, that you get for making a real money purchase. I know Liquid's looking up the cost here.
I read that completely wrong. So anyway, I'm buying my wife that next Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the cost is on it. I didn't see that posted anywhere, and it's you can't see it in the PTR. At least I couldn't. Maybe it's only available to like newer players. I don't know. But anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that when it hits live.
No, I should be able to buy that. I want the loot chest and the extra 7 days plus the mount. So I should be able to buy that too.
Yeah,
Weird.
You think so?
Anyway.
I did see it in the PTR when I was there today. Anyhow, new announcers, D.Va and Genji. People were wondering where the Overwatch announcers were. Well, we just got 2 of them. So I think I'm trying to decide if I'm going to part ways with my Brightwing announcer to look after D.Va and Genji. Might be a difficult.
How is Brightwing?
Surprisingly creepy.
All right. I may have to change because I'm still on the base one. I haven't changed the announcers yet.
How have you not changed announcers?
I've been using Muradin.
I don't know, man.
I'm using the Lily announcer. Helps calm me during the matches.
Power of positivity.
Yeah, exactly.
We've also got some new changes to emojis. You can no longer spam more than 10 emojis per message. You jackasses that were doing more than 10 emojis per message. This is a much needed nerf.
Damn, you jackasses. This is Daz, I feel like
you know who you are. Oh my gosh. Let's see how many people we can insult. Like, we'll just watch our viewership go from, like, you know, little to none. So the score screen's got some changes too. The role column has been split into healing/shielding and damage taken, which is pretty cool because certain heroes that have both available, like your Tyraels, Uthers, Zaryas, even ETC with Prog Rock or Chen with enough to share talent taken, will show both damage taken and healing/damage mitigation through shielding, which is kind of cool. We've had some changes to the portraits too. I didn't actually. The problem with the PTR is pretty much everyone's below level 100 that you came across in the PTR, so I couldn't actually see what these visual changes were. But player levels displayed in the portraits have received visual updates to easier distinguish progression, which I know this is a big gripe of everybody's. You know, you can't really tell other than the last 2 digits. Unless you have like your decodering what level anyone's at without right-clicking on them and looking at their profile, because we know the gem means 500, but like the colors, they don't make too much logical sense as to which color means like at which 100 levels. But I'm assuming this has been made to alleviate those concerns. You guys heard anything more about this portrait change?
I mean, I've heard a lot of people being happy with it, but I haven't actually found anybody that's doing it. So yeah.
Well, again, maybe it's just a wait and see approach. You assume it's better. Speaking of another assume it's better thing, rejoin screen has been updated. Provide a smoother experience while reconnecting to an ongoing match. And I actually tested this out. I was that douchebag who went into game. I went back to desktop and did the rejoin, and as far as I can tell, it's not quicker or anything. It's just a little bit of a visual update. Instead of getting that like waiting 10 seconds till server time, 8 seconds up to server, it's just kind of like a little bit of a bar with a little bit more fancy graphics and such. So a little bit of a visual change. It's too bad that it's not like a really good like instant rejoin feature, which I'm sure everyone's been clamoring for since this game launched. Liqiud, do you want to tell us about your favorite change here in the patch notes?
So one of the things that's always annoyed me. All right, so as the as a tank player, because I usually play almost exclusively tanks, my camera is not always where I am, and I'm trying to watch the battle so I know where I need to head, especially while I'm B'ing. And it's always annoyed me that when I hit that B, the camera snaps back to the Hall of Storms. I don't need to see the Hall of Storms. I know what it looks like. I need to see the part of the battle where I was looking so that I can, keep up with where I need to run after I finish that return to get my mana and health back. So I'm actually really excited about this change. I think people have been asking on Twitter and in Reddit for a long time for this change. So I'm happy they're finally adding it in, because it seemed like it would be easy enough to add, right?
Yeah. Abathur players rejoice, right?
Yeah.
All right, so getting into the reworks. I'm not going to touch on these too deeply because, oh man, we are running up against the clock here. Alarak got a big rework. Sadism is now similar to Gathering Power in that you gain sadism, 3% sadism per takedown up to 30%, which is a loss on death. If you're familiar with Gathering Power, that should sound very familiar because it's exactly what it is. This is for ability power, by the way. So sadism starts at 100% and equals increased ability damage to heroes. So you can get that up to 130% using your now base kit increased to sadism. Double Cross is now baseline on Discord Strike. So what that is his little triangular laser thing. Garrett on Into the Nexus calls it the Kylo Ren lightsaber talent. It gives you like the little two at the side as well as lightsaber up the middle. So that's now baseline. Lightning Surge's damage was reduced by about 40%. There's 100% bonus damage now in the center, and enemy heroes, though, also now give a static number of heal, and it's not based on the amount of damage, so you can't really proc into it the same way you could before. Mystic, if you had a chance to play Alarak a lot, do you have any thoughts on his new talent tree as well? I don't want to go over the talents here, since we're going to deep dive on them next week.
I did look over his talents. I tested quite a few in try mode, and they are pretty insane. Like Daz said, to sum up like most of everything, he is just Gathering Power incarnate, basically.
You're right.
Which makes sense, right? For his who he is.
He does. If he gets any kills, he just increases his sadism like really, really high, and then in turn increases his damage, right? So he's gonna become a really high priority target, but he's lost a little bit of survivability because they took out like the healing on his lightning surge based on damage. That would be actually insane. He'd be able to heal like half of his health bar just by using like one lightning thing. So I'm glad they did that. So they took away that survivability, and they made his damage a lot stronger with all these new talents.
So one of the cool things that I've gotten out of casting is I know a lot of Master and Grandmaster players. Every single one of them that I've asked about Alarak has said, "Oh my god, OP."
That's what I was thinking when I was testing out the talents. Like, what?
Every one of them. Oh my god, OP. So
the last thing we need is a bunch of OP
will.
Alarak players running around the Nexus 2. He's one of those frustrating heroes to play against if you come across a good Alarak. If you're telling me those good Alarak players are just going to get that much better,
yes.
We might be
those
in for a bit
good
of a rough
Alarak
ride.
players will be god tier. Look out.
Did you guys see that level 1 talent where there's 3 quests, but if you hit the third one, you get all 3 like with one strike? Basically, for anyone who hasn't checked it out, I'm not sure where the first 2 quests are, but the third one, if you hit 3 heroes with 1 lightning strike, and it hits them in the middle of it, you automatically get all 3 of your talents. And the other one, they're questing talents, right? So it's just bang, 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 you get all of them with 1 shot. So you'll probably see a lot of Alarak players going in for that, just to complete the 3 talents right away. It's
a big tip for all the people out there: when this Alarak rework hits, I know how everybody likes to run to the middle and start a fight. If there's an Alarak on the enemy team, don't do that, because you don't want to give it to him like right at the beginning. Right. Spread, please.
That's a huge power spike if you get 3 questing talents right off the hop within like a few seconds of engaging.
Like 20 seconds into the game. Oh, yeah.
Do you like Alarak there, Bahgz? I can't stand playing against him.
He's really frustrating to play against someone who's really, really strong with him. But I tried him out in an AI match on the PTR. And what kind of like going through his talents, what he screamed to me is like this new reworks kind kind of cater to like some of the League and Dota players, because if you're performing well, you're just going to be a monster, like literally like an absolute damage dealing monster. Because as you're securing takedowns and as you're completing whatever, there's several questing talents he's got. You're building up that sadism, and you're gonna be that carry that you want to be. On the other side of that coin, though, is if you're not playing well, you're just gonna be Alarak. I don't know what else to explain.
At that point, I don't even think you're gonna be Alarak. I think you're gonna be Wet Noodle. Like if you're good at Alarak, you will be godlike. If you're bad at Alarak, please stop playing him.
He's going to be high risk, high reward, and I think that's why the Grandmasters and Masters you're talking about, because they're playing on the PTR with a wide range of MMR players. They just like they're so much better than everyone else. They feel like gods on the character that just enables them to be. So
yeah, it's you back in the old day. KT and Zeratul with Gathering Power, and like a Zeratul against a Vikings, right, with Gathering Power, like by the end of that game he was like, oh, I think I'm gonna kill that person, and that person was dead. Like that's what this is. So but the skill cap is slightly higher for Alarak, right? So if you're a good Alarak player, you will literally by the end of the game be like, you're dead, and like that's just it. Like you're dead. Like you're not like I gotta get out of jail free card. It's like, no, I'm dead. Thanks. And you walk away.
How's it going to be in pro play? I mean, there's less deaths typically there, too. Is he going to be able to stack his sadism enough to get value?
So that's what makes it interesting, because I think that's a great question. And I think that's one of the more interesting things about Gathering Power type quests. They make it really hard for pros to, like, scale that, right? Because pros typically don't die. So what do? I tend to think that you'll actually see, not that Alarak has a high pick rate right now in pro play, but with these changes, I think you'll see even less Alarak pick rate. Because, like you said, unless you're picking into Vikings, right? If you're picking into Vikings, it's different, because you can kill the Vikings to build your Gathering Power. But when Zeratul Zeratul's a bad example. When KT required Gathering Power to really be KT, pros pick Jaina, because KT, you can stack your Gathering Powers quickly. You may see the same thing.
I think along with that, I think there's going to be the few pros that actually embrace it and say, okay, we're actually picking a team that centers around Alarak to make sure he gets those stacks and those kills. Yeah. And that's going to be like somewhat overbearing if they get it going.
But you'll only really see that on 2-lane maps, because it's hard to do that on a 3-lane map unless you're the team with Vikings, right? Because you need the soak. But to effectively do we're going to be the team built around Alarak, you need to have at least a 4-man rotation going as a hunting party, right? So if you pick Vikings knowing that you're going into an Alarak, I could see that. Or even Abathur, right? Abathur can effectively soak 2 lanes if you have a good Abathur player. Even maybe possibly an Azmodan. But you need to be able to work out so you have a one hero soaking 2 lanes, so that group of 4 can deal with the roaming hunt to try and build Alarak stacks. So I would agree, Mystic's right. We may see something like that happen, but it's going to be like a very specific draft, and the whole point is going to be we constantly want to be getting Alarak kills, so we're constantly going to be team fighting, and you tend to see that more on like maybe not even a 2-lane map. Maybe a big map like Cursed, but with Vikings picked or Abathur picked. Abathur would be sick, actually, because if your Abathur player can clone Alarak and play a good Alarak, like, dude.
Dual Alarak?
All right.
So Tyrande got a major rework as well. This is one I'm pretty excited to talk about. I've been playing a lot of her in the PTR. Again, we're going to deep dive it next week. We're going to give initial impressions today. So she got a lot of changes to her base kit in the way that it functions. First off, she got a bit of a basic attack reduction. There's a good reason for that with all of her talents and abilities. She's got to proc that. Her heal no longer heals herself when healing an ally, which is a big change for Tyrande. The cooldown of her heal is increased from 8 to 12 seconds, but the cooldown is reduced by 2 seconds per auto attack. The heal amount was also reduced by 15%. The mana cost was reduced from 45 to 25. Sentinel, that's her owl, has a baked-in quest now too. Kind of cool when you get these questing talents just baked in. Every 8 heroes hit, it will pierce 1 extra target, and the mana cost will be lowered by 10. Shadowstalk is completely different as well. It only affects Tyrande, and it gives her movement and attack speed bonus when breaking stealth. Starfall also got a bit of a change. Its radius is decreased by 70%. So the talent tree is completely reworked. If you're used to playing Tyrande, it's completely different. From what I've seen when I've been playing, you can output a lot of single target damage as Tyrande, and because of her cooldown reduction on auto attacking, you can actually get a lot of heals out of her as well. You can also try and focus on an Owl Mage build, but my initial impressions is it's not as strong as Owl build has been in the past. One specific thing to note is Owl build on the current Tyrande on the live server, I think it's level 16, where you can take the talent where the further it goes, the higher the damage, but also the wider it gets. You no longer have the wider it gets bit, so it gets a little bit harder to hit those range shots from across the map. And that talent has been moved to level 1, but the damage increase isn't as much. It's a questing talent, so I guess theoretically you could bring it up to that point, but it's not nearly as impactful, I think, as the Owl build was currently. But that's just my opinion on it. And she's also got a lot of surprising damage mitigation options too. A lot of things like you can heal someone out of a stun, which is kind of neat too, and giving people spell armor as well off her heal. There's a lot of little things in there, and a lot of ways to proc her attack speed or get like more heals out of the single target attack damage too. So it's kind of neat. Mystic, do you think she's gonna be really strong? I'm hearing and I'm seeing that she's pretty powerful. I was getting pretty high damage numbers and healing numbers out of her too, which is obviously a nice combination.
I really like this change because they change her into more of a hunter, right? So that's kind of what it feels like. I'm really glad about that. And then I also feel like she's really strong if she can get those auto attacks off. She's like a ranged Kharazim almost. Kharazim, to do a lot of the stuff that he does, he has to get into melee stuff, right? However, Tyrande doesn't have that problem. She's ranged. So she can kind of do like the Kharazim-esque stuff that she does, but she doesn't have to get in close. If she can get those auto attacks off, then she's really, really good. If she can't, she gets CC'd, she gets blinded and stuff, then she's a lot less useful. But I feel like she's really strong.
She almost turns into like an insight build Kharazim to a certain degree too, because she get mana reduction on her Sentinel, and you can actually spec in and get her getting 0 mana lunar flares as well. So you can basically have like an almost infinite mana Tyrande with a lot of pumping out a lot of heals too. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to play her, like getting the cooldown reduction. I think that Kharazim parallel is very, very spot on there, Mystic. Bahgz, you like Tyrande at all?
I gave her a quick play against AI earlier today, and the first thing that came to mind was the repeatable quest, which I had. No one else has that, right? Maybe Alarak has that now, but that's a first thing, like these never-ending quests, almost like another similar to Gathering Storm. Like if you take that Owl talent, I think at level 1, it just stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks as long as you keep hitting people with it. But I guess what I got away from it is she has a couple of different paths now that she can go with her talents, and I don't know. I'm not good enough to say which way is the correct way to go. But I tried to do the Owl build, and I noticed, and you mentioned it, it just didn't feel very strong. Because I'm playing against AI, and the enemy team likes to clump up when they're AI, and I was just, you could really stack up the Owl build, and I just didn't seem to be getting much value out of it. But it is incredible. If you are able to, like Mystic said, land your auto attacks, the Q is always off cooldown in that case. It's if you're able to constantly stutter step and keep landing auto attacks, you're gonna pump out a lot of healing, at least for Tyrande anyways.
So my only complaint, all these changes are awesome. I like what they're doing to Tyrande. My only complaint is that Shadowstalk only affects Tyrande now. You could set up some sick plays with a Shadowstalk.
But it's so good now.
It is good now. It's surprising.
No, I get it. It's great for Tyrande, right? I'm totally not trying to knock that. It makes me sad.
so fun to use.
It is, because you get a huge, I think it's 50% attack speed bonus that's reducing your cooldown on your heals, so you're pumping out heals. And if you spec into a lot of single target damage, you can do a lot of damage with that ultimate.
It's like her own like true
stim drone.
Why am I going blank? Well, I guess stim drone's a good way to describe it. I was gonna say bloodlust.
Oh yeah,
like that's what bloodlust and WoW would do, is like buff your attack speed like crazy amount. I mean, I know it adds your attack speed in heroes, but not the same way. But yeah,
it also lasts an infinite duration as long as you don't break the stealth.
Oh really? So it's like,
yeah.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So it makes you really feel like a hunter.
So
camouflage.
Dehaka got some changes as well, mostly for build diversity. I'm actually kind of surprised this didn't make it into today's patch. But I guess you can consider a rework. So Dark Swarm's damage was increased from 30 to 50, but it no longer gets double damage to heroes. So really it's been nerfed against heroes, slightly buffed on minions. The cooldown was increased from 9 to 10 seconds. Primal Aggression, the level 1 talent that basically did this, has been removed. So now you can pick something else level 1 and I guess get more or less the same effect to the minions. Level 1 Enhanced Agility, movement speed bonus per 50 essence is increased from 1.5 to 2%. So presumably you're going to get a 20% movement speed increase cap if you're doing that instead of 15%, which it currently is.
Yeah.
And also now when leaving a bush, the speed bonus persistence is increased from 1 to 3 seconds too with that. Tissue regen at level 1 was also buffed, so globes actually grant 10 essence too as well. Feeding Frenzy at 7, that decreased the drag cooldown on basic attacks, has a cooldown reduction of 2 seconds instead of the old 1.5 per auto attack. Essence Devour is removed at 7, but again, no one took it anyways. Level 13 Swift Pursuit was also removed, and no one took that one either. Level 13 did get some buffs to underpick talents as well. Ferocious Stalker now makes your abilities do 25% more damage when Breath Stalker movement bonus is active, so that obviously synergizes pretty well with that speed bonus persistence that I mentioned before. And Primal Rage has a new passive talent to gain 1% basic attack damage for every essence you have. So suddenly you're kind of Diablo stacking a little bit there, your essence. So who likes Dehaka and who likes new Dehaka, I guess, too? In a lot of ways, he's kind of like it's talent diversity change. I'm not sure if it's a buff or a nerf necessarily.
It's a little bit of a buff. I actually like all the changes they did to him. And I actually like Primal Rage. So I played him. This is actually the one that I've played on PTR. Because this was the one that was most interesting to me. I've been looking at D.Va as a bruiser, so I was focused mainly on Dehaka. I actually like all of his changes, and Primal Rage is actually my go-to now. It encourages you to grab a bunch of essence if you can, and then use that for not only damage, but then a heal when you need the heal. But then it also, like, I found myself reprioritizing, so I use adaptation before I use my essence heal, post 10, so that I can continue with the damage, use adaptation to heal me the first time around, and then use my essence heal the second time around. But I actually like his changes. I think Blizzard is right on the money. This is not going to be like a huge buff or a huge nerf one way or the other. This I like better than what they did to Varian. Varian I felt like it was too nerfy. This I feel like was a better balancing. The 9 to 10 seconds thing was mildly annoying, but I kind of get why they did that. So yeah.
What do you think, Bahgz? I'll give you the final word before we start to sign off here.
Okay, I agree. It's just this is just promoting build diversity. It's essentially all it is. It doesn't really move them one way or the other. Like the level 1 talent for the wave clear was the only talent that you could really take at that tier. So they had to. So they baked it in essentially. So.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it.
I actually liked. I mean, that's a good thing. Like, to me, that's a good thing, right? And that's almost what I wish they'd done to Lucio. Instead of the changes they made to Lucio, look at doing something like this to Lucio, right?
I like that you're like clinging on to the Lucio changes. I feel like those are so like so minor to him too, and the fact that they moved like level 13 heliotropes or whatever that no one took. You're like, just bake it in. It's like no one cared about that talent. That's why they nuked it.
It's the rejuvenencia, and like everybo's taking it, and I don't know. Like I feel like they need to redo his talents. I don't know. Whatever. You're right though. I'm totally stuck on that Lucio change.
And on that note, I think we're going to call it here because I think this might officially be the longest show we've ever done. Turns out you get two esports guys in the same room. Guess what's going to happen?
I still don't think you can put this on the esports corner, but I'll accept it. Because
I'm pretty much always going to put going overtime on the esports corner. We had to cut, as we expected off the top, that we were going to cut the debate, so that'll be going on next week. And Mystic's Shakedown got cut yet again. I know we should move that up. I feel like next week so we can like make sure we get to it, because I don't think we've done a Mystic Shakedown since we had Bacon on the show like 4 episodes ago, because we're always just going overtime. 2.0 and all these patch changes. We didn't even think we were going to have much today. I remember talking to you guys yesterday or 2 days ago being like, oh, what are we going to do here, guys? We're going to have like a discussion on like double supports or like some strategy talk. Then you're like, nope. Look what Blizzard just dropped. Another big patch with 15 heroes touched. Go figure. So thanks everybody for listening to the Nexus Trolls, the Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Nexus Trolls, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So, Bahgz, thanks for guesting the show. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you?
Thanks for having me. People can find me on Twitter at powerup_Bahgz. They can watch me stream incredibly irregularly at twitch.tv/Bahgz. That's Bahgz. A lot of people get that confused. They think it's just like there's no H in there. The H is silent. And that's about it.
Yeah, I was definitely like mistyping. I had to correct myself over and over again. It took me like a solid 3 months to get Liqiud spelling right because the stupid I and the U switch. Yours is severely less annoying than that. Speaking of which, Liqiud, where can folks find you with your oddly misspelled name?
Well, excuse me, I too misspell my name. So you can, the easiest place to find me and follow me is on Twitter, twitter.com/LiqiudGG. That's LIQIUDGG. I am actually on hiatus streaming right now. Every once in a while I stream. I think I streamed a after show game. Actually, I streamed that to the Nexus Trolls channel now that I'm thinking about it. So I stream every once in a while, but mostly I'm off right now while we're between Chair League seasons and HGC Open Division seasons. But you can find me at twitch.tv/LiqiudGG as well. But best bet, Twitter. I'm trying to pump up those Twitter numbers anyway. I do tweet about a bunch of stuff, including the 323 Weekly, which is the other HGC-based show that I do over at twitch.tv/DB Smiley. DB Smiley writes for GFE, and we do a weekly show covering HGC NA every Thursday night at 7:30.
Mystic, how are those Twitter subscriber numbers coming? You boosting them as hard as Liqiud is?
Maybe not as hard as Liqiud is.
But if someone
have you tweeted yet?
Saving that for a special occasion. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I haven't.
So if you'd like to follow someone on Twitter and get absolutely no value out of it, you can subscribe to Mystic at Mystic Shroud. I'm sure it took us so long to get him to join Twitter. It's going to take us a little bit extra time to get him going. But once we get him going, we'll get him going. And if you're looking to follow me on Twitter, it's at DazHots. That's DAZHOTS. So thanks again to all our patron supporters. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can always go over to patreon.com/TheNexusTrolls. Trolls. You can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find our podcasts online. You can visit our website at www.thenexustrolls.com to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which can also be found on our YouTube channel, which, just like Bahgz is impossible to link to because it's ridiculous. But if you go to our website, you can find it there, or you can Google it, I'm sure. For announcements about the show and general Heroes of the Storm news, you can follow us on Twitter at @TheNexusTrolls. And finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at podcast@thenexustrolls.com. Mystic and Liqiud, thanks again as per usual. Bahgz, it was awesome having you as a guest. Everybody,
it was a pleasure.
Everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.